It's been a turbulent time in Westminster as British politicians continue to battle out the terms of the United Kingdom's departure from the EU. It's likely there'll be more drama this week, beginning with Prime Minister Boris Johnson expected to call for another vote on holding an early general election. Soo-young reports.
It's likely that the deadlock over Britain's departure from the European Union will continue for months to come, despite Prime Minister Boris Johnson's push to leave the EU by the October 31st deadline. After suffering a major defeat in Parliament last week by MPs who voted to block a no-deal Brexit, Johnson has raised the stakes by calling for an early general election. MPs rejected that motion, but the Prime Minister says he'll push for another vote on Monday.
Well, what he would like is for the Conservative Party to win that election with a bigger majority. He would then be able to overturn the legislation which has just gone through to block no deal and take the UK out of the European Union by the 31st of October.
Johnson said last week that he'd rather be dead in a ditch than request an extension to the deadline, more than 3 years after the historic Brexit referendum. While the opposition has voiced strong concerns about the effects of a no-deal Brexit on the British economy and possible disturbances to supplies of key imports such as medicine, hardcore Brexiters say the UK can simply abide by WTO rules on trade with the EU, and that new and better trade deals could be made around the world. Analysts say Johnson is playing a game of chicken with his opponents, as well as Brussels, as they struggle to work out their differences over the Irish border.
I think he is committed to this idea. I think it's probably an illusion that by threatening no deal, he can somehow persuade the EU to make concessions to the UK. All the noises coming out of Brussels suggest that that strategy isn't working. It seems fairly clear, I think, to most people in this country, because we've seen leaks come out about the negotiations with the EU, that they are in fact a bit of a sham and that Boris Johnson really simply wants to take the UK out of the EU without a deal.
21 MPs from Johnson's own Conservative Party voted last week against the government in passing the legislation to block a no-deal Brexit. Those MPs have since been expelled from the party. According to British media, the group is now preparing to take the Prime Minister to court if he refuses to ask Brussels for a Brexit delay. Commentators say another way to prevent a no-deal departure would be dissolving the current government with a vote of no confidence and forming a new government that supports an extension. Soo-young, Arirang News.